Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Thursday, January 27th, 2022. Welcome to day 373. The U.S. economy grew 5.7% in 2021, the fastest pace that it's grown since 1984, when the country was rebounding from a recession and an era of high inflation. From October to December, the GDP increased at a 6.9% annualized pace. Consumer spending also jumped to 7.9%, the most since 1946, but consumer prices reached 7% themselves, the fastest year-over-year inflation since 1982. A record-breaking 6.4 million jobs were also added in 2021. Moving on, the Biden administration's coronavirus vaccine mandate for healthcare workers takes effect in roughly half of the United States today and will extend to the rest of the country in the coming weeks. The mandate covers roughly 10 million workers at hospitals and nursing homes that receive Medicare or Medicaid funding. The Supreme Court blocked Biden's vaccination or testing mandate for large employers earlier this month, but it upheld the vaccine requirement for healthcare workers at facilities that are subsidized by federal funds. These medical facilities will lose funding if they don't comply with the mandate. Meanwhile, a record 14.5 million Americans signed up for health insurance through the Affordable Care Act for 2022, eclipsing the previous enrollment record by nearly 2 million people. Joe Biden said, quote, "Healthcare should be a right, not a privilege for all Americans," end quote, crediting the American Rescue Plan that Democrats in Congress passed last year, which increased subsidies and lifted the income cap to allow more people to be eligible for assistance. The enhanced benefits under the COVID-19 relief package only last through the end of the year unless Congress takes further action. Biden's proposed Build Back Better plan would extend the subsidies through 2025, but Joe Manchin has repeatedly said that he opposes a, quote, "historic expansion of social programs," end quote, such as Build Back Better, because he says they would only feed inflation. Meanwhile, Biden formally announced the retirement of Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer and reaffirmed his commitment to nominating the first black woman to the court, saying, quote, "It's long overdue in my opinion," end quote, and noting that he would announce his choice by the end of February after reviewing candidates and their records. Republicans, however, have already preemptively attacked Biden's unnamed Supreme Court nominee as a radical liberal. Senate Democrats only need a simple majority to confirm Biden's future nominee in the 50-50 divided Senate. Moving on, the Biden administration approved more than 3,500 oil and gas drilling permits in its first year, nearly 900 more than the Trump administration. Despite announcing a halt on any new federal oil and gas leasing, the Biden administration set a record for the largest offshore lease sale in the Gulf of Mexico, and the Interior Department plans to auction off oil and gas drilling rights on more than 200,000 acres by the end of March, followed shortly thereafter by 1 million acres off the coast of Alaska. In 2021, a federal judge blocked the Biden administration's temporary suspension of new oil and gas drilling leases on public lands, ruling that the authority to suspend oil and gas leasing lies, quote, "solely with Congress," end quote. Interior Department appointees, meanwhile, say they were forced to resume leasing because they could be held in contempt if they didn't follow the judge's orders. And finally, Russia says there is little optimism about the diplomatic efforts offered by the U.S. and NATO to de-escalate tensions along Ukraine's border. The U.S. said that it offered a diplomatic path forward in the standoff with Russia over Ukraine. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, however, said, quote, "We can't say that they took our concerns into account or showed any readiness to take our concerns into consideration," end quote. Last month, the Kremlin demanded that Ukraine and Georgia be permanently barred from joining NATO, while also calling on the military alliance to pull back its forces and equipment in Central and Eastern Europe, which the U.S. and NATO rejected. Republican leaders, meanwhile, have been pushing Biden to toughen his stance against Russian aggression, while their party's far right has questioned why the U.S. would support Ukraine at all. And in the polls, The Hill says 43% of Americans say they would support Biden if the 2024 presidential election were held today, while 33% say they'd vote for Trump, and 16% say they'd choose a different candidate, while 6% say they wouldn't vote at all. In a hypothetical race against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, 41% say they'd vote for Biden, while 33% would support DeSantis. Quinnipiac says 49% of registered voters in Georgia say they would support incumbent Republican Governor Brian Kemp, while 47% say they'd support Democrat Stacey Abrams. In 2018, Abrams lost to Kemp by 1.4 percentage points. And the Atlanta Journal-Constitution says 34% of Georgia voters approve of the job that Joe Biden is doing as president, down from 51% in May. 71% of Georgians believe the nation is on the wrong track.
That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefuckjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditas.